Prepare to immerse yourself in a narrative that not only tells a story, but also invites you into a world rich in historical and psychological depth. This introduction is designed to provide you with a deeper appreciation of Dostoevsky's artistic vision, the historical context, and the intricate moral and psychological explorations that form the core of Crime and Punishment. Join us as we delve into one of literature's most profound and enduring masterpieces, a journey that promises to be as enlightening as it is captivating. Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment emerged from two narrative seeds. Initially titled The Drunkards, it focused on the Marmeladov family's struggle with alcoholism. Concurrently, Dostoevsky developed a narrative about a murderer's introspective journey. The fusion of these stories transformed his vision, combining an omniscient view of Raskolnikov's psyche with societal critiques influenced by the nihilism within the Russian intelligentsia. This novel goes beyond individual experiences, reflecting the ideological dilemmas of its era. The merged narratives of Raskolnikov and the Marmeladovs, initially separate, together explore societal issues like alcoholism and poverty, demonstrating Dostoevsky's ability to weave personal stories into broader societal contexts. Raskolnikov, an impoverished ex-student, emerges from his apartment in St. Petersburg, deeply consumed by a disturbing fantasy. His detached demeanor and tattered clothing reflect not only his poverty, but also his profound internal conflict and psychological burden. Navigating the Haymarket, Raskolnikov is jolted into self-awareness by a passerby's comment on his shabby hat. This encounter heightens his paranoia and fear of exposure, reflecting the novel's themes of scrutiny and societal judgment. In his tense interaction with Alyona Ivanovna, the pawnbroker, Raskolnikov's observant nature clashes with her cautious demeanor. This meeting becomes a symbol of Raskolnikov's moral and philosophical struggles, as he grapples with his contemplated actions. Offering his father's watch, Raskolnikov is met with an unsatisfactory deal from Alyona. This transaction highlights the watch's sentimental importance versus its monetary value, illustrating the multifaceted significance of objects and people in Raskolnikov's world. Overwhelmed, Raskolnikov retreats to a tavern, seeking a brief escape from his tormenting thoughts. The tavern scene symbolizes his alienation from society and his internal battle with isolation and despair. Raskolnikov's emergence into the outside world is heavily laden with his internal turmoil and existential dread. His contemplation of a dark fantasy showcases Dostoevsky's exploration of existential themes, emphasizing the psychological depth of his character. The moment in the Haymarket where Raskolnikov is confronted by an outsider's observation serves as a critical point in amplifying his paranoia and fear of being discovered, highlighting the novel's exploration of the individual's struggle with societal norms and self-awareness. The pawnbroker's interaction with Raskolnikov becomes a central symbol in the novel, representing his moral and philosophical dilemmas. This encounter sets the stage for Raskolnikov's subsequent actions and reflects the broader existential questions posed by Dostoevsky. The transaction with Alyona Ivanovna over his father's watch transcends mere economic exchange, delving into the emotional and societal values attached to objects. This scene is emblematic of the complex relationships and symbolic meanings that permeate the novel. The tavern scene serves as a microcosm of Raskolnikov's struggle with isolation and his search for temporary respite from his chaotic thoughts. This setting foreshadows his future actions and his ongoing philosophical journey, reflecting the novel's themes of alienation and existential crisis. In a tavern, Raskolnikov meets Marmeladov, a destitute civil servant. Marmeladov reveals his descent into poverty and alcoholism and his family's suffering due to his actions. Marmeladov shares his history, including his marriage to Katerina Ivanovna, a noblewoman, and their life's downturn leading to their current misery. He details Katerina's struggle with tuberculosis and their financial ruin exacerbated by his drinking. Marmeladov recounts how his daughter Sonya resorted to prostitution to support the family. Despite Katerina's initial resistance, she eventually accepts the money Sonya earns, highlighting the family's desperate situation. Marmeladov describes getting his job back, leading to temporary improvement in his family's situation. However, his alcoholism resurfaces, and he squanders his earnings on drink, further deepening his family's crisis. Raskolnikov accompanies Marmeladov home to a squalid apartment, where Katerina confronts her husband about his actions. Raskolnikov, unnoticed, leaves some money for the family and exits, contemplating the human capacity to endure suffering. Raskolnikov's interaction with Marmeladov serves as a mirror to his own inner conflict. The empathy he displays, despite his general disdain for social interaction, underscores his complex psychological landscape and the novel's exploration of alienation. Marmeladov's story is a poignant commentary on the impact of social hierarchy and personal failings. His inability to cope with the expectations tied to his wife's social standing and his subsequent descent into alcoholism reflect the destructive nature of societal pressures. Sonya's decision to resort to prostitution underscores the harsh realities of poverty and the moral complexities faced by individuals in desperate circumstances. Her situation echoes the novel's exploration of the fine line between moral compromise and survival. The Marmeladov household's chaotic environment serves as a reflection of the societal upheaval of the time. Katerina's struggle to uphold her noble status amidst abject poverty highlights the novel's focus on pride, social standing, and the human spirit's resilience. Raskolnikov's benevolent gesture, followed by regret, illustrates his complicated relationship with money and his wavering moral compass. This act reveals his capacity for empathy, offering a glimpse into the more redeemable aspects of his character amidst his overarching internal conflict. Raskolnikov's squalid apartment mirrors his psychological decline, with only Nastasia's occasional visits piercing his solitude, reflecting his deep alienation and internal conflict. Letters from home highlight the family's reliance on Dunya's financial and personal sacrifices, showcasing the societal pressures and unacknowledged burdens women face during financial hardships. Svidrigailov's inappropriate behavior towards Dunya exposes the exploitative aspects of male power in society, threatening her autonomy and family's honor. Luzhin's proposal to Dunya reveals his ulterior motives, indicating his desire for control and manipulation rather than genuine affection, reflecting the era's distorted view of marriage as a power dynamic. The prospect of a family reunion in Petersburg brings a mix of anticipation and dread for Raskolnikov, as his mother's letter triggers a complex web of emotions and foreshadows future conflicts. The bleakness of Raskolnikov's room serves as a symbol of his mental turmoil and societal detachment. The oppressive environment and his reaction to it underscore his existential crisis and foreshadow his impending actions. Dunya's plight emphasizes the societal challenges women face, particularly in times of economic distress. Her sacrifices, driven by societal expectations, underscore the novel's critique of gender roles and the economic conditions of the time. Svidrigailov and Luzhin represent different facets of male dominance. The former through overt sexual aggression, the latter through subtle societal manipulation. Both characters illustrate the varying degrees of male power and its impact on female agency. Luzhin's engagement with Dunya is depicted not as a romantic union, but as a strategic move, reflecting the social construct of marriage during that era. This highlights the power imbalances and societal expectations surrounding marriage. The upcoming family reunion, while a beacon of hope, is laced with apprehension for Raskolnikov. His mother's letter stirs a complex mix of emotions, setting the stage for future internal and external conflicts that delve deeper into his character's psychological landscape and the novel's overarching themes. Deeply disturbed by the news of Luzhin's marriage proposal to his sister Dunya, Raskolnikov resolves to prevent the union at any cost. Reflecting on his family's plight, Raskolnikov grapples with the parallel between Sonya's prostitution and Dunya's possible marriage for financial security. During his walk, Raskolnikov's protective instincts flare up as he tries to aid a young inebriated woman from a predatory man, showcasing his complex morality. Despite his initial burst of protective fervor, Raskolnikov's resolution falters, leading him to abandon the young woman to her fate. Amidst his internal tumult, Raskolnikov contemplates visiting his old friend Razumikin, a stark contrast to his own personality and outlook. Raskolnikov's internal fury towards Luzhin stems not only from his manipulative nature, but also from the perceived injustice of Dunya's sacrificial marriage. This highlights the moral dilemma faced by women in their society, forced to make choices against their will for the sake of financial stability. The novel juxtaposes Dunya's potential marriage to Luzhin with Sonya's prostitution to expose the societal hypocrisy in moral judgments. Raskolnikov's contemplation of these parallels underscores his internal battle with the societal norms that dictate what is morally acceptable. Raskolnikov's spontaneous protective act towards the drunk woman, followed by his abrupt withdrawal, showcases his contradictory nature. This incident reflects his deep-seated internal conflicts and struggles with a moral compass that sways between compassion and apathy. Raskolnikov's consideration of robbing the pawnbroker evolves from a mere financial need to a broader moral justification to save Dunya from a distasteful marriage. This rationalization foreshadows his future actions and reveals the complex layers of his motivations. Introducing Razumikin as a character who shares Raskolnikov's background yet differs significantly in personality and approach to life serves as a foil, accentuating Raskolnikov's unique psychological and philosophical dilemmas. Razumikin's contrasting demeanor throws Raskolnikov's internal turmoil and existential struggles into sharp relief. Raskolnikov's aimless journey through the city reflects his reluctance to return to his cramped quarters, capturing his inner turmoil and disconnection from his surroundings. A disturbing dream of witnessing a horse's brutal beating resurfaces, highlighting Raskolnikov's deep-seated aversion to cruelty and violence, which starkly contrasts with his own murderous thoughts. The intensity of the dream shakes Raskolnikov, causing him to momentarily question his capacity to commit the planned murder, thus revealing a glimmer of moral conflict within him. A chance meeting in the Haymarket provides crucial information about Lizaveta's whereabouts, reigniting Raskolnikov's intentions to murder the pawnbroker and showcasing the role of fate and chance in shaping his path. This episode emphasizes the unpredictability of life and fate's hand in steering Raskolnikov's decisions, underlining the novel's exploration of free will versus predestination. Raskolnikov's meandering walk through Petersburg mirrors his psychological maze, where his sense of aimlessness and alienation from his environment underscores his inner conflict and existential crisis. The resurgence of the traumatic childhood memory serves as a poignant reminder of Raskolnikov's inherent sensitivity to violence, contrasting sharply with his contemplation of committing a heinous act, thereby deepening the moral complexity of his character. The dream's impact on Raskolnikov, sparking doubt about his murderous plans, offers a rare glimpse into his conscience, revealing an internal struggle between his philosophical justifications and his innate moral repulsion. The accidental encounter with Lizaveta not only reignites Raskolnikov's murderous resolve, but also exemplifies the novel's theme of how random events and fate intertwine to determine the character's actions and destinies. This chapter highlights the novel's broader exploration of the boundaries between chance, fate, and free will. Raskolnikov's journey through the city and the incidental meeting at the Haymarket serve as pivotal moments that shape his decision, illustrating the unpredictable nature of life and the complex interplay of deliberate choices and unforeseen events. Raskolnikov learns about Lizaveta's intermediary role in clothing sales and reminisces about his first encounter with Alyona, the pawnbroker. He recalls her wealth and harsh treatment of Lizaveta. In a tavern, Raskolnikov overhears a student and an officer discussing Alyona. They describe her wealth and cruel business practices, including mistreating Lizaveta. The student shares a hypothetical scenario of killing Alyona without remorse, a thought that shocks Raskolnikov as it mirrors his own. Raskolnikov, after a heavy sleep filled with dreams, wakes up with a sense of urgency. He proceeds to prepare for his planned crime by sewing a loop into his coat for the axe and wrapping a fake pledge to distract Alyona. Raskolnikov faces a dilemma in acquiring an axe for his plan. He originally intends to borrow it from the house's kitchen, but finds Nastasia at home. However, he discovers an axe in the caretaker's closet, which he takes as a stroke of luck. Raskolnikov ascends Alyona's staircase, unnoticed by the painters working on the second floor. He experiences fear and doubt about arousing suspicion, but decides to ring the bell, preparing to confront the pawnbroker. The contrasting portrayal of Alyona and Lizaveta in Raskolnikov's recollections underscores the social disparities in Petersburg. This contrast not only highlights Alyona's exploitation and harshness, but also elevates the moral ambiguity surrounding Raskolnikov's contemplation of the crime, influenced by the stark societal injustices. The tavern conversation, where the student justifies a hypothetical murder of Alyona for a perceived greater good, mirrors Raskolnikov's own utilitarian rationalization. This coincidence not only echoes his internal debate, but also foreshadows the recurring utilitarian argument Raskolnikov will encounter, complicating his ethical dilemmas. Raskolnikov's detailed preparations, such as sewing a loop in his coat for the axe, reflect his obsessive attention to detail. However, this meticulous planning also reveals a divide between his rational intent and the emotional and irrational aspects of his psyche, highlighting the dual nature of his criminal contemplation. The practical difficulties Raskolnikov faces, especially in acquiring the axe and his inner conflict, highlight the gap between his intellectual justifications and the practical execution of the crime. This disparity underscores the novel's exploration of the chasm between theoretical musings and the reality of committing a crime. Approaching Alyona's door, Raskolnikov's hesitation and fear mark a critical moral threshold. This moment, laden with symbolism such as the presence of painters and the prolonged ringing of the bell, underscores the impending transgression from contemplation to action, foreshadowing the psychological turmoil and moral conflict that ensue. Flustered, Raskolnikov forcefully enters Alyona's apartment under false pretenses. Seizing his chance, he brutally murders her with the blunt end of the axe in a state of nervous agitation. After the murder, Raskolnikov desperately searches for valuables. His plans go awry as he struggles with the keys and eventually finds some items in a trunk, stuffing them into his pockets haphazardly. Lizaveta unexpectedly enters, finding her sister's corpse. In a panic, Raskolnikov murders her too, eliminating the only witness to his crime. Raskolnikov quickly cleans the axe and hides evidence of the murders. He narrowly avoids discovery by two men at the door, managing to lock it just in time. Utilizing the distraction of an argument between painters, Raskolnikov escapes from the building. He returns to his room in a dazed and disoriented state, reflecting on his actions. The murder of Alyona exemplifies Raskolnikov's shift from calculated planning to impulsive action. His nervous agitation and use of the axe's blunt end signify the dissonance between his intellectual justifications and the visceral horror of the act, illustrating his psychological unraveling. Raskolnikov's chaotic looting and frustration with the keys highlight his loss of control and rational thought. His haphazard approach, not focusing on the financial gain, reflects the overwhelming psychological impact of his actions. Lizaveta's murder, unpremeditated and swift, symbolizes Raskolnikov's deeper moral downfall and contrasts with the premeditated murder of Alyona. It underscores the theme of unintended consequences and Raskolnikov's unpredictable violent impulses. Raskolnikov's attempt to cleanse the axe and his clothes foreshadows his eventual path towards redemption. His fear and thoughts of confession during the close call with discovery reflect his horror and desperation to escape the reality of his actions. His escape, facilitated by the argument between the painters, showcases the role of chance in his fate. Raskolnikov's disoriented return and the triggering smell of fresh paint at the police office later highlight the psychological aftermath and the burden of guilt he carries. As we reach the end of Part 1 of Crime and Punishment, we have journeyed deep into Rodion Raskolnikov's psyche, unveiling the layers of his troubled mind. Dostoyevsky, with his deft narrative skill, captures Raskolnikov's downward spiral into a web of obsessive justifications for his contemplated crime. This intricately paints a vivid portrait of a soul wrestling with its own chaos. From his poverty-stricken existence to his meticulous planning, Raskolnikov's story resonates with the tormented introspection found in Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground. His interactions in St. Petersburg, from the squalid taverns to the shadowed streets, act as a canvas where his internal conflicts play out. Here, Dostoevsky crafts a narrative that goes beyond the external, exploring the convoluted inner terrains of morality and identity. In Crime and Punishment, the true journey is internal, a complex voyage through the realms of psychology and philosophy. As we delve into Part 2, prepare to continue exploring the rich depths of Dostoevsky's exploration of the human condition, where each twist and turn of Raskolnikov's mind offers new insights into the enigmatic nature of humanity. Marmeladov's sermon in Crime and Punishment, held in Chapter 2 of Part 1, is a microcosm of the novel's broader themes. It is enriched by layers of biblical allusions, complex characterization, and Fyodor Dostoevsky's stylistic mastery. The sermon weaves a tapestry of divine judgment, mercy, and the human yearning for understanding and redemption, all deeply rooted in Christian narrative and symbolism. Central to Marmeladov's discourse is the poignant reference to "Behold the man," John 19:5, where Pontius Pilate presents a scourged Jesus Christ to a hostile crowd. Marmeladov employs this phrase to present himself in his fallen state, drawing a parallel between his own suffering and Christ's humiliation. This allusion not only underscores Marmeladov's self-awareness as a tragic figure, but also ties his personal anguish to the Christian themes of sacrifice and salvation. Moreover, the inclusion of "everything hidden will be made manifest," Mark 4:22 and Luke 8:17, speaks volumes about the inevitability of truth and revelation. Marmeladov's life, marked by shame and degradation, unravels in his narrative, mirroring Raskolnikov's journey where his concealed crime and its moral burden are eventually exposed, leading to his path of redemption. The metaphor "as the wax melteth," Psalm 68:2, traditionally used to describe the destruction of the wicked, takes on a nuanced meaning in Marmeladov's plea. It reflects his deep internal conflict, the acknowledgement of his moral failings alongside a fervent desire for divine mercy and forgiveness. This juxtaposition of self-aware wickedness with the hope for redemption is a testament to Dostoevsky's exploration of complex moral landscapes. Marmeladov, a character plagued by alcoholism and the resultant degradation of his family, embodies the novel's exploration of human frailties. His indifference to the women and children in his life, while wallowing in self-pity and even stealing his daughter's earnings for alcohol, is a moral low point. He represents a deeply flawed man, focusing on his own suffering while ignoring the devastating impact of his actions on his family. This intricate blend of biblical allusions, character complexity, and moral introspection in Marmeladov's sermon offers a profound insight into the novel's exploration of suffering, morality, and redemption. It highlights Dostoevsky's ability to weave individual narratives into a broader tapestry of societal and spiritual themes, making Crime and Punishment a timeless classic. In Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, dreams are profound gateways that unveil the character's deepest fears, desires, and moral conflicts. These visionary episodes deftly foreshadow future events and explore the intricate psychological landscapes of the narrative. We're ushered into a touching memory from Raskolnikov's youth in his first dream, where young Raskolnikov, tenderly called Rasky, witnesses a distressing scene: a drunken Mikolka savagely beating a defenseless horse to death. Young Rasky's rush to the horse's side symbolizes a deep-seated empathy, sharply contrasting Mikolka's brutal indifference. This dream skillfully mirrors human nature's dual aspects, juxtaposing Rasky's inherent compassion with Mikolka's heartless violence. It foreshadows Raskolnikov's internal struggle with his plan to murder Alyona, the pawnbroker, challenging his self-perception as an extraordinary man above moral norms. This childhood dream, deeply entrenched in Raskolnikov's psyche, reflects both his natural aversion to cruelty and his conflicting murderous intentions, highlighting the moral discord central to his character. Upon waking, Raskolnikov's physical response to the dream, a mix of fever and sweat, signifies its profound impact on him, revealing his doubts about committing murder and the discord between his theoretical reasoning and emotional aversion to violence. Dostoevsky weaves this dream into the novel's moral and psychological fabric with masterful precision. In light of Gary Saul Mawson's penetrating insights in Why and When Does Raskolnikov Decide on Murder?, let's delve deeper into the labyrinthine psyche of Raskolnikov, a character brought to life by Dostoevsky's unparalleled narrative craft. Raskolnikov's motives transcend mere greed, entwining themselves within a complex web of mainly three philosophical quandaries. Utilitarianism. This principle, advocating the greatest good for the most people, raises ethical questions. Can murder be justified if it serves a higher purpose? Moral nihilism. Raskolnikov flirts with the idea that moral principles are inherently meaningless, making any action, no matter how vile, morally neutral. The Napoleonic theory. Raskolnikov is drawn to the notion that extraordinary individuals are exempt from conventional morality, guided by superior goals unattainable to the average person. These conflicting ideologies weave a tapestry of paradoxes. For example, utilitarianism's altruistic aim clashes with the elitist undertones of the Napoleonic theory. Raskolnikov, rather than being a decisive actor, becomes an unwitting marionette in a philosophical theater, his actions dictated by these clashing beliefs. Dostoevsky's narrative transcends a mere crime story. It's an exploration of the tumultuous process of decision-making and the enigmatic nature of human desire. Raskolnikov's journey is not just his alone. It mirrors humanity's perpetual struggle to reconcile its noble aspirations with its darker impulses. This invites us to ponder, in the vortex where moral compasses spin and ideologies entwine, can we ever fully grasp the intricacies of our choices? Enhancing this narrative with Mawson's perspective, we see Dostoevsky's focus on the Russian intelligentsia's ideological extremes and their delusions of moral and intellectual superiority. Raskolnikov embodies the infirmity of notions that Dostoevsky critiques, the seductive yet flawed ideas influencing the intelligentsia. These ideologies, while intellectually stimulating, are fraught with contradictions and culminate in a morally ambiguous act of murder. The Napoleonic theory, in particular, distills the intelligentsia's mentality, shunning societal improvement for a self-proclaimed elite status. Through Raskolnikov's internal battle, Dostoevsky exposes the intellectual and moral crisis of his era, making Crime and Punishment a timeless study of the human condition. Here are the main names of Crime and Punishment, and what they mean. Just pause the video whenever you want to take a moment to think what these names could mean for the story.